Group called the appeals board's decision to make him pay a nearly $30,000 water bill criminal.
What would you do if you woke up one day and you had a $30,000 water bill for a property that had no existing structure on it, no house, no nothing? What would you do? Well, it happened to this guy. And in today's video, we're going to talk about it as a real estate agent, real estate investor, somebody that does and comes in contact with problems like this all the time. Let's talk about it and let's see, did he fix it? Did he not? And maybe we can discuss how you might remedy this if you ever had this happen. So let's get right to it. Let's jump right into it.
Let's go back to where this saga began, an empty lot in the city's East Lake community.
We bought the land several years ago, and there was no home here. There was no water meter.
Jeff Rawl has been. Let's go back to where this saga began, an empty lot in the city's East Lake community.
We bought the land several years ago, and there was no home here. There was no water meter.
Jeff Rawl has been building and renovating in the city of Atlanta for 20 plus years. He has a routine.
I started my process. I ordered the water meter.
Department of Watershed Management installed a standalone water meter October 4th, 2022.
When that meter was installed, there wasn't even a foundation at that house. So there was nothing for them to connect to.
It was 2 months before Revive Construction even began to build a home here. But before the dirt was even turned over, the water meter was apparently hard at work.
You know, a lot of these meters are wireless. They connect to the water service, the FPL here, we have FPL, the power service, like they report wirelessly. There used to be a meter man that would go out and check this stuff. Now they just do it, automated. But I have seen this happen, and in most times, like let's say you have a leak, you can see the meter ticking when like there is nothing on in the house. You'll just see it slowly ticking. And you can go out there and you can tell that. But when you have 300,000 gallons, and in this case, 1,000,000 gallons of water escaping, you would see it. Let me tell you, liquefaction in the sand would sink a structure. Like there'd be water running down the road. There would be like so much chaos going on if you were literally losing that much water. It would be evident. And like, that's like 1,000 swimming pools in this case. And in the first month, he did 300,000 gallons.
1 month after the water meter was installed, an $8,899 water bill arrived. That's more than 300,000 gallons of water in a single month. According to the EPA, the average family of four only uses 400 gallons. Bills for an empty lot with no connection to the water meter poured in at these numbers for 5 months.
Like, where is the common sense on this that maybe the water company says, you know what, maybe he's not doing that. There's not even a structure there. I mean, I would be down there at the water company raising you know what, because it's not possible. I've seen meters stick and somebody will just have free water for a long time. I actually saw that recently, and it wasn't until they said something about it that they were like, oh, we need to go out there and give you a new meter because this one's obviously broken. Seen it with the power company where somebody just gets a $1,000 power bill. The crazy part about it is these create like almost like a lien against the property. Like this guy will not be able to sell this property, mortgage the property, really do anything with this property until he clears this up. And you'll see as we go along this story, it's been a real problem for him.
When the water meter was finally connected in February 2023 to the newly built home's plumbing, the water bills plummeted to $13.12. Finally coming to almost $30,000.
$30,000. You heard it right there, folks. That is an insane amount to just think somebody's using on a single family home lot with no hookups. I feel like, I mean, there was recently a spot in our alley that there was this random water pipe that just kept leaking water in the road. And for like 6 months, it would just go down the road. You would just see it running down the road. I called the water company. I called the sewer company. I called everybody. And they had no idea where this pipe is coming from. And to this day, they still don't know. And it still runs down the street every once in a while. And sometimes these miscalculations, I don't know what's going on with the meter problem happen. And I've even seen the water pipes bust in the alley where we're at. And let me tell you, and that's why I say it would liquefy the yard. It actually happened to my buddy down the way. The water pipe broke, and it wasn't even like a humongous supply to the city. It was just a supply to the neighborhood, like our part of the neighborhood, and it sank his tree, almost sank half his house. And liquefaction is real. That's a large volume of water escaping, which would be about like this water escaping, which common sense.
Still, Atlanta Watershed Management denied a bill readjustment. Revive Construction appealed.
We never used water from our meter. We used water from our next door neighbor to rinse tools, and that would be the only water that we would have needed.
One board member said there are only 3 options here: use of water, loss of water, or theft.
Because there's a period there when nobody is out there. You know, your workers are not out there, nobody's out there, and an unscrupulous character who know that you're working on the site. You know how people are?
They seem to ask a lot of questions.
This guy, it amazes me who they put on these boards. It's like the city council, it's like county commissioners. Some of these guys, they get on these boards and they sit in positions of authority. Anytime you have a regulatory body or a monopoly like this, or the government, I'm surprised at some of the stuff they just say, the stuff they just come up with. Like, oh, well, do you think maybe in the few hours you're not working or on the weekends that somebody, an unscrupulous character, could just come and steal the water? Do you realize how much 1 million gallons of water is? I used to run water logistics, theater logistics in Iraq. Let me tell you, you know how many 5,000 gallon water tankers it would take to move 1 million gallons of water, or 300,000 gallons of water? You are out of your mind if you think that somebody could just steal the water. That, there would be, you would see the operation going on all night, all morning, into the next day. And there'll be trucks lined up down the road trying to move this much water. And for a politician or somebody, an official, to sit there, well, maybe somebody stole it. The numbers don't add up, man. It's common math. It's simple math. All this stuff is simple math. You can tell the water's not going anywhere. There's obviously a problem.
Department of Watershed Management sent someone out to take a look. The utility's own notes read, meter isn't connected to the house. It also said no leak was found.
Questions about theft,
Yeah.
as if they felt I was somehow in the dead of the night connecting to this water meter, filling up buckets, 1 million gallons of water, and taking them somewhere.
Again, he's being charged for using more than 1 million gallons of water. That's what this looks like. This swimming pool holds about 10,000 gallons. 1 million gallons would be 100 swimming pools.
You know, it makes sense that if I was standing there, that maybe the golf course is what the meter is reading, or they've crossed up how they registered the meters, maybe in their database, that meter is on the same database as the giant golf course across the street that probably has some sort of leak somewhere in their irrigation system. I mean, it'd be mind-boggling to think that it's not. I mean, you would see the water, puddling somewhere if you did have that, like a sprinkler head leak. You see those in people's yards all the time, running down the street or down through the golf course. That makes sense. But not the little single-family house over here, which on average would do maybe 400 gallons. There's obviously a problem.
So we asked the next door neighbor, did he see or hear anything? And he said no. In fact, he never even saw any sort of sign of a water leak, like standing water or soft soil. So we went directly across the street to another neighbor, the East Lake Golf Club. If 1 million gallons of water came anywhere near their manicured greens, that would set off alarms. The Fox 5i team called them. Did they see anything unusual? No.
I think we would have noticed that.
In a last-ditch effort, after nearly a year of communicating, the contractors appealed to a higher-up at the Department of Watershed Management, begged them to review the board's position.
It was my Christmas miracle.
In an email from the utility, it was admitted that the balance was from a water leak caused by the Department of Watershed Management. Once the leak was addressed, the corrected balance was $219.29. Big difference. But that relief was
See, this really makes me think that somebody doesn't want to admit that there's a problem. There's a random bookkeeping error, and I wouldn't even doubt it if somebody else has their fingers in the cookie jar. You know what I mean? As in tapping into it somewhere that shouldn't be tapping into it, and they covered up in the bookkeeping. But I would more than likely say that they just don't want to admit to the problem. I saw this on the deal I had with the actual privacy fence problem. I've talked about it on this channel where they issued a ticket, took the ticket away, issued the ticket, took the ticket away. There was 3 surveys done. They all matched, but they still wanted to give you the ticket on the permit they gave you. Sometimes they just don't want to admit to their voting constituents or to the people around them that there is a problem. And sometimes like they'll issue these verdicts and then come back and say, you know what, we were wrong, sue us. And it takes forever to sue or clear up some of this stuff. Meanwhile, you can't transfer the property. You got holding costs, you got taxes, you got all kinds of problems. You got workers, you're trying to build a house. You don't know whether you're going to clear this up. It's going to create some kind of lien on the property. There's just a multitude of problems that happen with this stuff, and it takes so long to clear up. I mean, you're going to spend, and I'm not a lawyer, you're going to spend $5,000 or $10,000 trying to argue this in court. At least. Might be more. Might be as much as the actual water bill. It's just crazy. This is the world we live in where they can just wave a wand and you have to go fight them, and they got their own attorney and they hold all the cards. But this is the system we live in, and this kind of stuff infuriates me, especially when they say they're wrong, and then they come back and say that they're right, and then they come back and say they're wrong, and then they come back and say they're right. And this, what are you to do?
short-lived.
I get a phone call from the Department of Watershed Management that they have escalated it to somebody higher up in the legal department and says, we will not honor that.
A spokesperson for the utility told the Fox 5
I would lose my mind over this. Like, all of a sudden, the bill's reinstated after they said they were wrong. And then what are you to do? I'm surprised they don't shut the water off to the property until this is just like figured out, because you've got this $1 million house, $500,000 house, but you can't get water to it. And then they hold all the cards.
team, it was a mistake. The nearly $30,000 bill stands.
I'm a fairly calm person by nature, but this has gotten me, I feel like it's extortion.
So what do you think about this? What do you think will happen to the property? Do you think they'll wind up changing it? Who would you call? Have you ever seen this happen? I've seen it happen a few times. My neighbor left for a trip out of town, and she got a $700 water bill. Come to find out, she had a tiny leak from the meter to the house somewhere in the ground, never noticed it. And I guess the pressure of everything being off for a while finally made it start spewing out. I've seen this happen, but it was remedied. They just said, you know what, this was a one-time problem. Hey, we're going to waive this. Obviously, it's an error. I haven't seen it with a gas, because gas, you can smell it, you know. And usually if it runs for too long, they'll just, the gas company will be like, hey, you got a leak. Hey, we're going to shut off. Go find the leak. And I feel like the water company could have done the same thing, because obviously this is not correct. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment down below. And if you're looking to buy or sell real estate on the Gulf Coast of Florida, Alabama, email me down below. Be happy to help you. If I can't, I'll find somebody that will, and I'll see you guys later.